Spoiler alerts ahead, but I want to talk about Leia and Han's roles in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Hey guys, Jen McGann, and this is the Fangirl, where I am getting answers even if I have to make up my own. And I really want to make sense of Han Solo's appearance in the Rise of Skywalker. Hey, you had your spoiler warning, so if you're still here, that's on you. But if you don't care about spoilers and that statement made no sense to you, basically, Episode 9 has this scene where General Leia decides to, I guess, force project herself to Kylo Ren. Literally, she's just a shadowy figure that says, Ben. And the next thing we know, Kylo is questioning everything and ready to abandon his dark side allegiance. But even though Kylo is like 99% sure that he's ready to turn towards the light, it still takes a brief back and forth between Kylo and the deceased Han Solo for Kylo to be ready to ditch his lightsaber? Huh? Wait, this isn't like Harry Potter where the saber chooses the Jedi, is it? I mean, the actual lightsaber isn't good or bad, it's up to the person wielding it, right? I mean, heavy-handed symbology aside, dude, you're literally gonna need that in like 10 seconds. Why would you throw one of your best weapons away like that? Anyways, Han Solo showing up was such a what the heck moment because he wasn't a Sith or a Jedi or any kind of Force user. So how is he a Force ghost? And I have hashed some of this out with my buddy Danny Quinn, and some of our more popular ideas are that Han might have had a little bit of the Force in him, which means he was able to tap into that to sort of sway his son back to the good side. And I guess it's plausible, but that also goes against so many other things the franchise has already set up that I don't love that answer. Another option is that Han was just a mental projection from Ben's mind. Han was Ben's guilt, his safety net, his Wilfred. Ben needed the strength to expel his dark tendencies, so he made up a conversation with his father to help him get there. And that would mean the Han we saw in Episode 9 was never real, just part of a psychotic breakdown from Ben, who never really dealt with the emotional baggage of killing his dad. Mental health is important, kids. If you don't deal with your problems, they'll manifest in some crazy ways. But while either of those answers are acceptable and really a lack of clarity points to some very bad screenwriting, I just keep thinking about Leia's brief moment before Han appeared. She apparently already knew that projecting herself to Ben would end her own life, and okay, I can accept that since Luke's astral projection in the last movie seemed to dissolve his physical body too, even though Rey and Kylo are doing very similar things across two different movies and that doesn't seem to affect them at all, but whatever. We'll just call it a technicality that Kylo and Rey weren't astral projecting the same way that Luke and Leia were. Sure. I mean, J.J. Abrams certainly isn't going to give us any better answers. He's Mr. Let's have 1,000 mysteries and never get to the end. But assuming her projection was really Leia's last shot at getting to her son, it seems a little bit weird that all she got was a quiet whisper of before she died. Well, allegedly died. They put the sheet over her head, but her body was still physically present, which means she was at least a little bit alive by Jedi standards. So why did Leia just whisper Ben instead of having a real heart-to-heart with her son instead? Why wasn't Leia saying, "Son, I love you. This is what I need you to do. I know you're strong enough. I believe in you"? Well, my theory is that since Leia's physical body still hung around, I don't think Leia's astral projection had ended. I think when Leia said her son's name, she saw how stunned he looked. Almost like if he saw his mother's disappointment in him, that would just shatter him. So, like a good mother and general, Leia knew how to pick a better strategy. Leia knew that she came across as a larger-than-life figure after all of her different positions in the rebellion, and that can be very intimidating to live up to, let alone live next to. It's probably what helped to estrange Leia and Han before he died. But Han, he was a fallible person who made some bad choices and just really wanted redemption in the end. Just like Ben. Han was approachable. He was someone that Ben could talk to level to level. So when her appearance visibly shocked Ben, Leia changed tactics to instead appear to her son as Han and gave him that final nudge he needed decided to leave the dark side. And the idea that Leia was actually posing as Han does have some merit to it. Han didn't have that bluish halo around him like the others did, so he obviously didn't bring himself back through the Force. Actually, if anything, Han looked just like a regular person, just like Luke did after he projected himself in The Last Jedi. And I know we've never seen this before, so it's not a solid reference, but who's to say that a Jedi has to look just like themselves when they project? I mean, why couldn't they choose any form that they wanted to look like, since their body isn't physically projecting, it's not mirrored, it's not recorded? You could be anybody. And since Leia hadn't returned to her physical body yet, her mortal shell was still there, which means the rest of her spirit, her force, whatever, was somewhere. And I think disguising herself as Han would have been the best move that Leia could make in that moment. Then when Leia's force spirit, or whatever it is that astral projects, saw that the battle was over, her being returned to her body and it all became one with the Force. Hey, it might not be reality, but the Broom Kid story arc was my favorite part of the Rise of Skywalker. Derp, 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 derps. Okay, theory's over, but I just want to talk about the Rise of Skywalker for a few minutes. I think I keep calling it Rise of the Skywalker, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I want to say I was really enthused with The Force Awakens, and I was okay with The Last Jedi. I didn't really love the Reylo romance, but I wasn't opposed to it, assuming they weren't going to be siblings. But then The Rise of Skywalker was like, what the heck are you guys who direct these movies and write these movies even communicating with each other? I mean, we don't even get a formal explanation of how Emperor Palpatine ever survived. And okay, it was kind of ominous, he got thrown into a pit, so maybe he landed and he wasn't dead and somebody did something about that. Heck, maybe Palpatine even had enough powers that he could have physically moved his body to another place, because it was basically canonical that Palpatine had an extreme level of power that not many other Jedi had ever had before. But it was also pretty much canon that Palpatine was never married and never had children. So to suddenly go in episode 9, which is pretty late in the freaking game, and just be like, hey, you know what? He did have a son after all, and that is Rey's father. What? I just thought so poorly of that. I wouldn't have minded having more of the old characters. That's not what bothered me. It's the way that they did it. Because when you're going to introduce that surprise he's alive in movie 3 of 3, you kind of waited too long with no clues along the way. And it threw away what The Last Jedi did of Rey being a nobody and say, surprise, hey, guess what? Your father was actually somebody. But it also took away the whole intent of your birth doesn't decide who you are, you do. Because we also saw Leia training as a Jedi, which was a cool moment, I'll give you, but she goes, oh, I have to quit because I see at the end of my Jedi cycle my son's gonna die, and that's exactly what happens anyways. So the whole movie does this double talk of, no, your destiny is not written, you can do whatever and be whatever, and oh yes, it actually is all predetermined and Leia's son was doomed to die no matter what she did. One often meets their fate on the path to avoid it. But yes, I went into that movie with a very open mind. I was kind of excited to see, hey, some new female characters. But then they also felt like they only wedged those women in there to be like, hey, let's have Poe and Finn pair off with somebody so people will stop calling them gay. I don't care if they're gay or not, but if we're gonna leave any ambiguity to the series, why not that? Why just shoehorn in female characters that don't really add or develop or have any three-dimensional aspect to them? And poor Rose, I feel like she got the brunt of the negative changes from the internet trolls. I won't say I was super attached to Rose or that she had the best part ever in The Last Jedi, but she did have a part and it was a pretty significant part. And I like seeing the representation of Asian Americans in cinema. I like that she was a little bit chunky, so not the Rey supermodel thin. And then The Rise of the Skywalker just sort of took a hacksaw and cut all of her part down to just a few lines and being present. We'll still sell those action figures, but gosh darn it, we don't want her to have any viable voice. Just the whole thing felt like a mess. I don't know. I don't know why it fell apart. No offense to anybody who did like it. You're perfectly allowed. But as something that's going to be the big finale, I don't understand why it did a 180 and went running and screaming from everything that The Last Jedi set up. What about Broom Kid? What about him? Why even tease that there are other Jedis out there in the galaxy if we're not going to explore that one iota? It was really more more than an unsatisfying conclusion to this 9-movie story arc, and I don't know, I kind of hope for a director's cut or something where we have more closure, more details, more kind of everything, maybe less of certain things. But overall, the movie to me felt so much like Aquaman, where they're just running around trying to collect this secret stuff to find this secret place, and when they get there, there's trouble! Feel free to defend the movie, feel free to explain it, but my take on it is that it just was not a very well thought out movie. So thanks for watching and listening to me ramble a bit, and we'll see you next time, family members. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members.